I wanted to thank everyone for taking some time to join us this afternoon. My name is Billy D, and I want to once again thank everyone. I'm going to turn it over now to Senior Consultant Matt Barron, who's going to go through a little bit of his presentation and then a live demonstration for you all. So if at any point anyone has any questions, please feel free to use the interface and we can stop and answer those, or you can wait till the end. And at this point, I will turn it over to Matt.
Thank you, Billy. And hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Thank you again for your time. I think that the main purpose of this webinar is really just to review and show a demonstration of how to really be compliant and have excellent quality as a PV organization, and more importantly, really be able to have a tool available to really demonstrate that in front of an inspector, to really be able to be managing your risk while retaining the flexibility and efficiency. So before we get into the presentation, just wanted to give a little overview of Pharmica Consulting. So here, the founding partner, Matt Kiernan, in addition to the long walks on the beach, he also has had about 20 years of experience in the industry and developing the company for the last 10 years of Pharmica to really help companies achieve operational excellence in many different functional areas, specifically in PV, which we'll talk to today. It really is Matt has, again, a lot of different elements of consulting experience in the pharmaceutical industry, but really what we can help companies do is really achieve that coveted operational excellence. And I think we'll talk more about really what that is later on in the presentation. So why do CAPAs continue to mount in pharma? So this is really just some numbers that we pulled from the 2014 CAPA statistics from FDA News. But really, I think before we get into the numbers, I think it's really clear for everybody that safety database is an essential tool for all PV organizations. It is, however, a very technically complex tool that historically has given companies tremendous challenges in being able to articulate how the structure and interface aligns with the governing PV operational processes, and demonstrating proper oversight and quality of compliance with those processes creates a tremendous struggle. As you can see, during inspections and audits, this creates a lot of risk to the organization and opens them up to be susceptible for findings minor, major, and even critical. So just to talk to some of this here, the number of CAPAs in 2014 issued was approaching 3,500, and the typical CAPA remediation cost is very significant at 150K per CAPA. Again, inadequate procedure citations is about 10% of the overall CAPAs issued, and I think you can really, maybe argue that is it really a real procedural issue, or is it the articulation between the actual safety database and data set and how that aligns with the overall PV processes that have really attributed to those findings. I think what we've seen is, from a compound annual growth rate in contract pharmacovigilance markets, this has kind of correlated well to seeing a significant increase in 2014 in the overall percentage of investment that companies are making. And I think in addition to that, over the last decade, PV organizations have begun to outsource their key systems and/or activities, or a combination thereof. And this has really only compounded the historical challenges to really enable companies to demonstrate proper oversight of quality and compliance in their PV organization. So going into the outsourced a little more, and how that impacts quality and compliance, this really paints the picture of the limited quality and compliance oversight now that the activities or systems are happening outside the company's firewalls. The mega sourcing deals that have taken place, where companies are now taking on the full service providers and CROs, do create challenges. While it's, from a business standpoint, it's an excellent approach, it really doesn't come. It comes with its challenges, and when doing those activities, you really kind of increase your opportunities for CAPAs due to findings from health authority inspections. And when you go through health authority inspections with findings of any kind, especially major or even critical, you're really going to create a snowball effect to increase your potential for even more inspections and more findings. And really, they will continue to come back, the inspectors, until you're able to really show that you have a handle on oversight of your quality and compliance as an organization. So the next slide here really just kind of shows paints a picture of the PB landscape and the different areas of the PB organization for companies. And when outsourcing their activities, what we've kind of highlighted here is big risk is red, yellow is kind of medium risk, and then minimal risk is green. And really what this is showing is by outsourcing all of the activities, where are you really now experiencing your risks with compliance and quality? Just to look here from a case processing standpoint, you see that we really find that all of those are at risk because this is the bulk of where the activities are being outsourced to the major CROs or functional or full service providers. And then also on the compliance end, the expedited reporting and periodic reporting are very, very significant, create significant risk, because that's really where the compliance is really going to be judged on whether or not you're meeting those timelines to get the information to the health authorities in the appropriate fashion. And then from a quality perspective, if you can get it to the health authority at the right time from a compliance standpoint, is the quality of that information good? Is it accurate? And does it really tell the story that the source documents received told? So Pharmica, as we had said, has created a tool to be able to help companies manage this oversight. And what we've done here is just laid in an overlapping with the PB outsourcing landscape. We've taken a look and shown what are the areas that the tool is going to have an impact and a big impact, and then where will it not necessarily really impact for the company. And I think what we've really been able to demonstrate, again, same back with the case processing and a lot of the big risk areas, we've really tried to create a tool that will help the company across all areas of the PB organization have the appropriate oversight that the inspectors are really looking for. So a little more about the tool. Overall, there is really 7 supporting PB processes. There is aggregate report, submission and compliance, submission compliance and quality, case processing, quality and submission compliance, and then there's also RMPs, submission compliance and quality, as well as the safety database itself. A quality element to that is available to really be able to track how issues with the database, how quickly they're being addressed, and what the KPIs are around that. So again, each one of those modules, if we'll call it, has a supporting process associated with it. And I think it's important to note that most companies are likely already operating under these processes, but what this does is the tool will help align the company to potentially enhance those processes and streamline them, make sure that they're doing it more efficiently with a minimal amount of resource effort. From a data structure standpoint, the tool actually is comprised of a subset of safety database fields that are imported into the tool, not from a direct connection, but just a manual import. And then based on the company requirements, an additional 160 fields we have out of the box for the tool to be able to leverage and enhance that data coming from the database to really be able to automate an analysis of your compliance and quality. One example, again, there's 160 fields, again, across those 7 processes. One is an example, one supporting process is the late case monitoring, so the ICSR submission compliance. This is actually really, that's one of the processes, and there's 7 additional fields outside of the database that are that support that process. So this is just now a little more insight, a visualization of the tool. Again, this is 2 examples. One on the left side is quality, specific for case processing quality, and then compliance on the right is a visualization that we have in the tool for the monthly submission compliance for aggregate reports. Now, as you can see, what we really wanted to do was create a standard interface that companies would be able to leverage, and I think what this does is offers a consistent look and feel across, so that people will be able to adopt the tool quicker as they have more familiarity to it. The other elements, again, just to talk through some of this on the side, you'll see filtering capability. This would really, we preset these out of the box, but also too can be modified based on the company's requirements. But the filters are what really leverages the dynamic nature to be able to analyze the data coming from the data input layer effectively for the company, so that they can really drill down further into the information and understand what the root cause really is. I think this really just kind of demonstrates, to quote the bottom here, good transparency and confidence that your PD organization is operating efficiently from a compliance quality standpoint, and if it's not, it gives you the capability to really be able to see what you need to do to fix it. So one case study that we wanted to share was really around, and again, please note that the data here that we're showing on the screen is dummy, but it's dummy data, but it actually does show where a client was able to leverage their process for the late case submissions for ICSRs. In that respect, at the time, there was roughly about 200 cases that were late for the month, and we were actually able to identify, based on the case analysis, which is all part of that supporting process, we were able to identify one key area that actually was able to be addressed with one corrective preventative action, and essentially the following month we were able to see a bump in about 20% of their compliance. So the analysis of this tool is very impactful in that you're going to be able to not just identify root cause, but categorize it, and then essentially be able to prioritize what areas you need to fix, and also too, you're not going to have to do a case level, one case per corrective preventative action. You can do one corrective preventative action that actually fixes a big bolus of cases. So again, that was all I had from a presentation standpoint. What I'd like to do now, if there's no questions, is actually move into the tool to show a demo of how the tool works, and give you more of an orientation to it. Okay. So just to dive into the tool, here is the tool itself, and again, this is actually, we're going to the ICSR submission compliance. So again, just what I wanted to show you from a demo perspective is I wanted to show you the visualizations, but as you recall, there's for each one of these tools a visualization report, which you're looking at now for ICSR submission compliance, and then also too, there's a data input layer that really helps govern the process of where the data is really being pulled from. So just before we go into the actual filtering, we can show you just how the interface operates. Is really just, again, pretty nice, showing all the reports. It's kind of laid out where the metric assessment reports is where the visualization and analysis happens. The executive leadership reports are really a roll-up from a compliance and quality of the overall summaries of each one of the metric assessment reports. So it gives a very high-level view, and again, it also will flag areas that really need to be evaluated by leadership. And then the data management tools, again, this is just then the interface where you can navigate to your appropriate data input layer to be able to input the data that ultimately gets analyzed. So the actual visualization here, just to kind of go through the interface, again, we have, as I had mentioned, the overall summary, which really shows the overall number of cases that were submitted in a given time period, then the number of late cases that were submitted, and then the on-time percentage that we had for that month. Now, if this number, this is actually built on a threshold, as you see, it shows up red, and I'm sure you can all relate. 51.5% is not a good scenario to be in. So hopefully we'll never be there. But if that drops below 95%, it will turn red. And really be able to clearly identify that you need to go evaluate the problem and do further analysis. If it is above 95, it will stay green. The actual then, so just to get into the bar charts on the side, this is really based on the case level analysis, and that case level analysis, again, the high level reasons, subcategory reasons. This is where you're able to get output from the safety database, which is just a flat Excel or CSV output, and then essentially of all your cases submitted and what was submitted late. At that point, for all the late cases, you'll do an analysis at what point did that case go late in the process, and then who is the responsible party. And by doing that, that's how you tag the category of the high level reason and subcategory reason to be able to do when you're doing your analysis. And that analysis is done in the data input layer, and then essentially feeds into these reports to be able to do a further understanding of true root cause based on that analysis. So at the bottom too, just to show the rest of it, the country analysis is a nice approach which paints the geographic picture of where your reports were submitted in each country for that month or for that time period, and then for that time period, what percentage in that country were submitted late. So in the case study where you may be able to attribute a root cause of the problem to late submissions that are coming in that country, and it may not just be raw number of late submissions, but what's the percentage breakdown of on time versus late to see if it's a true problem or just sheer volume. So again, now just to show you how the tool works with respect to kind of the filtering capability. Again, a lot of these filters on the right side here are all open for discussion, again, based on the company's requirements. But again, if I just now click on this, you'll see it as it renders. It'll now render, again, I can look at 1 month, 2 months, all months, but again, all of the reports in the dashboard, and including the overall summary, will update as I go through this. And again, I can take a look at, the time period. I can look at a product, the primary suspect product. I can, and again, filter everything, whether if you want to look at one or multiple case type. We can look at this from a follow-up or initial. And then report type. Is it a clinical report? Is it a spontaneous regulatory authority? Again, all of this information is able to be drilled down and filtered to get very close to have a good understanding of what the true root cause really is and where you need to address the issue. The other filters, again, responsible party. So this will really be able to give the company the capability to understand who has to really provide the root cause and an explanation of why the information was late. And then also to high-level reason, subcategory reason. This really helps with just drilling down a little further into one specific issue that you may want to highlight. So the one additional thing I wanted to point out in the data visualization, I think the other nice thing that it has the feature to do from a drill down standpoint of when I actually identify an issue. So I want to look at the raw data for that. Just by clicking on one of these elements, or one of the components, I can actually then now drill down and see, so if I look at the underlying data, what is the real data that exists in the data input layer where I'm really seeing this error take place. So I can really pinpoint it directly to the raw case numbers and be able to dive a little deeper that way. Okay. So that is really what I wanted to show from a visualization standpoint. The other element now, we can navigate to the data input layer. I just want to point out there are two ways to really do it. Again, through this navigation here, And then the other element for each one of the visualizations, you're going to have a link to the actual source data. So I can click, for the purposes of the demo, I'll access the data input layer this way. And now you'll see the data input layer is very simple and basic, and I think this really helps with being able to ensure that the adoption is easy, because the individual inputting the data and feeding the reports is really going to be critical to make sure it's simple for them to pick up and learn very quickly. So just to show you the structure of what the forms look like, again, the idea is that they would go in, each line in here represents a submission for a given case. And again, a lot of these data fields are pre-populated in this form based on fields from the database. And then if you scroll down, and again, this can be negotiated based on what the company's needs are, of which ones you want to utilize in this report. The other element is high-level reason and subcategory reason. This is where the individual would come in and actually, based on their case analysis in the safety database, they would then classify this as either supplier delay, submission delay. Again, this is from a requirement standpoint, we would work with the company to identify which are the best choices and from a high level and subcategory reason based on their process. But from an out-of-the-box feature, we find that this really, the choices we have available here fit the mold nicely. So again, same thing, we would be able to go in and then classify a subcategory reason and then tag a responsible party. We can also put the responsible party name as well, and then also to go down a little further, what we'd like to do is now we can send this to the responsible party. They can access that data input layer directly and input their own root cause analysis as well as corrective preventative actions going forward. So it's really nice from a tracking and documenting standpoint what you can do from a data input layer. We do have some customizations available, but again, that will be really based on the requirements for the organization. So from a metric assessment reports, just to show you, let's show one more other example. And again, as you'll see, let's go into AR submission compliance. This is just the same, another example of a visualization that again gets fed from the data input layer. But it's really kind of nice. Again, you'll see similar look and feel. There are two elements to this now from an annual plan perspective. This first one out of the box really just shows what from a geographic standpoint, what are your planned submissions for a given time period. Again, we have the capability to filter on a year, but really this just helps with really a little bit with resource planning, what products are going to be submitted to what countries. And just by hovering over this, you can really kind of see, okay, in 2015, I'm planning 2 submissions to the Netherlands for this given product. So then more diving in a little bit to the submission compliance breakdown, this really takes you through, again, the analysis around how you perform, preferably from a cadence perspective for a given month. The top graph here, again, will show the overall summary. Again, feeds into the executive leadership reports, but this really just shows the raw numbers and where you have to, when it drops below a certain threshold, where you need to take action. And then the bar charts here show the actual number, the raw number of submissions that took place for each product and report type. And then the bottom graph really just shows a breakdown of those percentages of those submissions. So again, we saw 1 submission for this P3 DSUR. So ultimately, there's about a 33% of that was late and 67% on time. And then this is then a culmination of the overall percentage for how much for your overall submission percentage and score based on that given time period. So just to scroll down again, the next element of this is now for the late submission responsible party. This now breaks down of those late submissions, who are the key players who are responsible, and we'll be able to identify that so that we can reach out to them to confirm what the root cause was and what the corrective preventative action really is. So again, this really gives you good insight to being able to identify what actions need to be taken and who needs to take them. So I'm going to stop there. that was all I had from a demo perspective today. Is there any questions that we have on the line regarding the tool or the presentation?
Hey, Matt, it's Billy. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Billy, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, we had a couple questions come in now. I will start going through them in the order I received them. First question is this solution validated?
Good question, Billy. So yes, the solution actually is not validated out of the box. We do have the capabilities in-house to support the validation of that once implemented on-prem for the company, but out of the box it is not. We have done that for clients, again, based on the company requirements. We have validated the various elements of the tools for them if that is a company preference.
Perfect, great. So yes, we can do it. Great. Next up is, where is your data coming from?
Thank you again, Billy. So the data in the tool essentially, again, before it actually gets to the data input layer, there's kind of two components to that question. The data is a combination of safety database fields. Again, for each module, we really like to define what fields the company will need to see, and we provide recommendations for the out-of-the-box solution, and also can provide guidance to make sure that there's no redundant fields coming into the report. But we'll define that for each module. At that point, too, there's also then that 160 additional fields that the company will then leverage from within the data input layer, where those forms are already set up based on the format of the data input layer, and it gives a structured format for individuals, multiple stakeholders, to be able to enter information into. So that's the answer to the question really is before the data input, what's feeding the data input is a combination of pre-existing input fields and safety database fields, and then what's feeding the reports is the merged data from the data input layer that's ultimately feeding these reports to support the analysis.
Great, and actually a follow-up question to that question is, do I have the flexibility to customize the fields in the data input layer?
Thank you, Billy. Yes, so it's absolutely customizable, and again, I think the out-of-the-box solution really offers our recommended approach. But again, we can either modify the existing fields or add new fields again based on the company's requirements. But that would be done through negotiations upon implementation.
Great. Next up, can or has this solution been used to help with outsourcing and partnerships?
Sounds good. Yes, the solution has been used to do that. In fact, where that really is seen in that each one of the modules that we have in the data input layer, we want to make sure that there is a field captured for a responsible party, and that's where whether it's an internal resource or an external resource, that information will be captured, so you can drill down into the performance within these visualizations of a given vendor or business partner. Again, all that stuff is coupled in. So that's how you really make sure you can leverage the tool for oversight of external work.
Okay, great. And then we have one last question. Once again, if anyone has any more, please type them in. But the last question I've received so far is, how difficult or how long does it take to implement this solution?
So I think the short answer is it depends. But I will say that the out of the box, if the company takes that information out of the box, the implementation is pretty straightforward and simple for about 4 to 6 weeks. And again, that really depends on customer or client availability to make sure that the requirements are obtained. The implementation, though, from there, once the requirements are done, is fairly straightforward for the most part. If there's any customizations that are required based on the requirements, again, that could attribute to some more time. But again, that's really that will be those timelines are then further discussed during the negotiations.
All right, great. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions come in, so I think that is all for today. Once again, thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. If you have any questions, Matt Barron, his contact information is on the screen right now, and I'll be posting this video and sending it to all the attendees who came out today and joined us. So once again, thank everyone for taking the time, and have a great rest of your day.